You walk past it every morning. You use it to fix your hair, to check your teeth, to make sure the person looking back at you is someone you recognize. We call it a mirror. It is perhaps the most mundane object in your home. But if you really stop and look into those eyes staring back at you, the familiarity begins to dissolve. What are you actually looking at? You think you're seeing yourself. You aren't. You're seeing a ghost of who you were a few nanoseconds ago. You're seeing a version of reality that mathematically should not exist. A world where left is right, where depth is an illusion, and where the laws of physics are playing a trick on your consciousness so profound that we've collectively decided to ignore it just to stay sane. Behind that thin sheet of silvered glass lies a realm that defies the very nature of the universe. It is a place where light dies, where time warps, and where the you on the other side is doing things you can't even imagine. Mirrors aren't just glass. They are the closest thing we have to a portal into a dimension that is fundamentally unreachable. And the deeper you go into the physics of reflection, the more you realize to understand this. The horror of the mirror, you have to understand the lie of now. We live with the assumption that we see the world as it is in the moment it happens, but the universe has a speed limit. Light, the messenger of all reality, is fast, but it isn't instantaneous. When you look at your reflection, a photon of light hits your face, bounces off your skin, travels to the glass, penetrates the surface, hits the metal backing, reflects, and travels back to your retina. This journey takes time. It is a fraction of a second, roughly a billionth of a second for every foot of distance. But in physics, that gap is everything. You are never looking at yourself in the present. You are looking at a version of you that has already passed into history. If you were to stand a light year away from a giant mirror, you would see yourself as you were 2 years ago. The mirror is a time machine that only looks backward, but there is something even more unsettling. Light isn't just a wave, it's a particle. And when those particles, photons, hit the mirror, they don't just bounce like a rubber ball. They are absorbed by the electrons in the metal atoms and then re-emitted. The photon that leaves the mirror and enters your eye is not the same photon that left your face. The mirror destroys the light of your image and creates a replica. The reflection you see is a reconstruction. It is a digital-like rendering performed by the atoms of the silver. You are looking at a copy of a ghost that the person in the mirror might be the only one who knows the truth. We've been told since childhood that mirrors flip things left to right. You raise your right hand, the reflection raises its left. But why? Why doesn't the mirror flip you top to bottom? Why aren't you standing on your head in the reflection? The answer is far more disturbing than a simple optical flip. Mirrors don't flip left and right at all. They flip front to back. Imagine a glove. If you try to slide a left-handed glove onto your right hand, it won't fit. They are chiral mirror images of each other that can never be superimposed. When you look into a mirror, you are looking at a version of yourself that has been turned inside out through the z-axis. The reflection is a non-superimposable version of your body. In the world behind the glass, your heart is on the right side of your chest. Your DNA spirals in the opposite direction. The very molecules that make up your reflection's body are chemically different from yours. If you were to step through the glass and swap places with your reflection, you would likely die instantly. Your enzymes wouldn't work. Your body would be unable to process the right-handed proteins of our world. The mirror creates a biological impossibility. It presents a world that looks exactly like ours but is functionally lethal. It is a perfect, silent, inverted twin of reality that exists only as long as you are standing there to witness it. Have you ever stood between two mirrors? The infinity gallery. You see yourself repeated forever, stretching back into a dark, green-tinged tunnel that seems to go on for miles. This is where the physics of mirrors reveals its hunger. No mirror is perfect. Every time light reflects off a surface, the mirror eats a small percentage of its energy. Most mirrors use green-tinted glass, which is why the further back the reflections go, the darker and greener they become. But think about what's happening in that infinite corridor. In that tunnel, there is a version of you that is 1,000 reflections deep. That version of you is made of light that has traveled miles back and forth within the span of a few inches. In that space, the you at the end of the line is virtually unrecognizable. The image has been processed, degraded, and stripped of its details so many times that it becomes a shadow. Physicists call this specular reflection, but from an existential standpoint, it's a reminder of the feedback loop If you left those mirrors there for eternity and the light never died, the images would eventually lose all coherence. They would become a blur of entropy. The mirror doesn't just reflect you, it slowly erodes the information of your existence until there's nothing left but a green haze. It is a visual representation of how the universe treats information. Eventually, everything fades. Everything is swallowed by the medium. There is an experiment in quantum mechanics called the double-slit experiment, which suggests that the act of observing a particle changes how it behaves. The universe reacts to being watched. Now, consider the mirror. For your entire life, you have been the observer. But in the geometry of the reflection, the other you is also an observer. There is a phenomenon called the Venus effect. When you see someone in a mirror and it looks like they are looking at themselves, they are actually looking at you. The angles of reflection ensure that the mirror is a bridge of mutual observation. But what happens to the space inside the mirror when you aren't there? We like to think the room stays the same, but physics tells us that color and shape are products of how our brains interpret light. Without an eye to catch the photons, the world inside the mirror doesn't exist in any way we can comprehend. It is a sea of vibrating electromagnetic fields with no form, no beauty, and no self. The mirror requires you. It is a parasite of your consciousness. It waits for you to provide the data so it can reconstruct the lie. The most creepy part of mirror physics isn't what it shows you, it's the realization that the reflection is a mathematical certainty that exists independently of your permission. Whether you look or not, the inverted coordinates of your room are plotted in the virtual space behind us. We spend our lives trying to find ourselves, but the one place we are guaranteed to see our face is the one place we can never go. The virtual image in physics is defined as a point from which light appears to diverge, even though the light doesn't actually exist at that point. Your reflection is, by definition, an imaginary construct. You are looking at a ghost produced by the intersection of geometry and human perception. You can touch the glass, but you can never touch the hand of the reflection. There is a barrier there made of more than just atoms. It is a barrier of logic. You are seeing a person who has no mass, no breath, and no future, yet they follow your every move with terrifying precision. One day you will look into a mirror for the last time. You will turn away, and your image will vanish. But the physics, the potential for that inverted world will remain. The silver will still be there, ready to capture the light, ready to create a new ghost. We are obsessed with mirrors because they are the only things that tell us we are real, while simultaneously proving that what we see can never be trusted. You are not the person in the glass. You are the brief spark of light that the glass is stealing. So the next time you're brushing your teeth in the dead of night and the house is silent, take a second look. Don't look at your skin. Look into the pupils of your reflection. Notice the tiny delay. Notice the coldness of the front-to-back inversion. And ask yourself, if you are the one looking into the mirror, then who is the one looking out? And the atoms of the silver. The dark room is always there.